Lauri Markkanen and Kyle Filipowski return to the Utah Jazz lineup against the Dallas Mavericks. Let's talk about it.
A while to get into that fade.
Here's Christie, ball stolen. Clayton Jr. smartly waits, finds Sinzabaugh. Got it. Bryce, 5-point quarter.
And that's what I mean, Bowler.
Jazz Smack, NBA and Utah Jazz basketball.
So that was an absolutely terrific play by both Walter Clayton Jr. and Bryce Sensabaugh. Walt comes up the steal. He drives the ball down the court. He has a 1-on-3 situation. So what he does, instead of forcing a poor shot, he holds it up. He finds Bryce trailing the play. Bryce stops at the three-point line. Walt gives him a perfect pass in rhythm, where Bryce can just go up and make the three-point shot. And we know how good of a shooter Bryce is, especially in that situation on a trailing three. Beautiful play by both Bryce and Walt, perfectly executed. That's about as well as you can do in that situation. Don't force anything. Just hold it up, wait for other opportunities, secondary break opportunities to develop, which it did, and Bryce gets an easy three. So beautiful play. And really the highlight of this preseason game was the fact that we got another addition to our lineup that we've been waiting for, with Lauri and Kyle coming back into the fold and being on the court again. Kyle looked really rusty, but again, he hasn't played in a while, so it's to be expected. There's nothing to worry about there. It's just one preseason game, and this is what preseason is for. Much of it is just to get in a rhythm, get the kinks out, get the rust off, all those things. So it's really nice to see Lauri and Kyle back on the court. Unfortunately, Ace Bailey left the game with some knee tendonitis, but the Jazz have been really cautious with him. We saw that in the Summer League. He played 2 games in Salt Lake, then didn't finish the Summer League in Salt Lake, and never even made an appearance in the Las Vegas Summer League. So the Jazz are being very cautious with his health right now. They want him healthy for the long term, and rather than just trying to maximize the short term. So I kind of agree with that. If he's having knee pain, you don't want to push it right now. Let's solve that prior to placing him back on the court, because the Jazz have a whole slew of players that do need playing time and that need development time, and also the franchise as a whole needs to evaluate a bunch of guys too. So there's no shortage of players to take this playing time. Yes, Ace is definitely an important part that needs playing time this season, but the Jazz have a whole bunch of other guys that need playing time as well. So those are my thoughts. And let's face it, the first half of this game went okay, but that second half against the Mavericks, boy, the team just looked really lethargic. I mean, just no energy. It was actually surprising. And Thurl Bailey made the comment that it appeared like Will Hardy was trying to slow the game down purposely to work on half-court offense. And that may have very well been the case. But it seemed like the energy standpoint, I mean, whatever happened on offense, it seemed like it leaked over into the defensive end as well. And there just was not the energy that we saw in those previous 2 preseason games. That energy just was not there in this game. For whatever reason, it just looked like the guys were just dead. So let's hope with this 4th preseason game against the Portland Trail Blazers that it returns to form like the previous 2, and it's a little bit more entertaining. At least the guys are playing harder, because that was as frustrating as anything. It just seemed like the lack of effort there, especially in the preseason, especially when this is the home opener, so to speak, for some of these guys playing in the Delta Center in front of home fans, and it just didn't look like there was any urgency there. So let's hope that changes in this 4th preseason game with the Blazers. So we'll see what happens. But another thing that I want to touch on, it's concerning playing time for this upcoming year. The Jazz have a whole bunch of players, like I previously said, that need playing time. They need playing time from a standpoint of developing, and they also need playing time so that the franchise can evaluate those players. The Jazz are coming up on a situation where they need to make decisions on guys. You just can't keep everyone. You can't prioritize the playing time for everyone. And so that needs to kind of be sorted out this season. Which players do they think have a future with the team, and which players maybe need to be moved along? And I compiled a list of 11 players that I think need priority this season in terms of playing time. So let's take a look at that list right now. And these are in no particular order. I didn't order these by priority or anything like that. They're just all 11, and they're just listed. So number 1, Lauri Markkanen. 2, Walker Kessler. 3, Kyle Filipowski. 4, Taylor Hendricks. 5, Ace Bailey. 6, George Niang. 7, Isaiah Collier. 8, Walter Clayton Jr., 9, Bryce Sensabaugh, 10, Cody Williams, 11, Keontae George. So I think those should be the priorities this season for playing time above all the other players. And I know there are veteran players on the Jazz that are going to get the shaft in terms of playing time this year. Those veteran players, in terms of hoping to carve out a consistent level of minutes, I don't think that's in the cards. I honestly don't. I don't think that Hardy can do that. I think you use those veteran players, Love, Kyle Anderson, Nurkic, Svi. You use these guys in a situation where you can steady the ship at times when things aren't going well, or when guys aren't playing hard. You insert those guys to hopefully to show the younger guys, the physicality that's needed, the effort that's needed, and those type of things. But in terms of consistent minutes from night to night for those veteran players, I just don't think that's going to be there. Not in any sort of significant way, because all these other guys, these 11 players listed here, these guys need minutes. They really need minutes. I mean, you look at Lauri. Lauri is arguably either the best trade asset that the Jazz have or the second best trade asset that the Jazz have, behind Ace Bailey. And Lauri needs time to keep his numbers high. I mean, he was a little bit down last year. He played really well in Finland with the Finnish national team this summer, but he needs good numbers. The Jazz have a good asset there. I still don't believe that he's going to fulfill his current contract with the Jazz. While with the Jazz, I think he's going to be moved, and they need to keep his trade value as high as they possibly can, which means he needs minutes. And the same thing applies to Walker Kessler. Now, the contract negotiations between Walker's representation and the Utah Jazz didn't go particularly well this summer, and Walker wasn't happy with it based on what he said during the media day interview. But Walker is still a really good asset for the Utah Jazz right now. I mean, even if they trade Walker, he needs to play in order to have good numbers. So you can't shortchange Walker on playing time. He must play. Kyle Filipowski, this summer, he certainly proved that he's worthy of playing extended minutes in the regular season. I fully believe Kyle to play a significant role with the Utah Jazz this year. I don't think that he's going to be shortchanged on minutes. I think he's going to get a significant number of minutes and play a big role. Taylor Hendricks, we all want to see Taylor play. In the first 3 preseason games, he's looked wonderful. He looks great physically. It looks like there's no lingering effects mentally of that injury. He looks great, and we all want to see him play. The Jazz need to see him play. The Jazz need to further develop him. He has a ton of talent. He can be a significant contributor for the Utah Jazz when they are a really good team. So Taylor needs to play. Ace Bailey, obviously, Ace needs to play. If the Jazz are going to be an elite team in the next 5 years, Ace needs to be a big part of that. George Niang, Now, I don't foresee George as a long-term piece with this Utah Jazz, team. But George, I think, certainly has earned the right to get his 20 minutes a game in order to get his next contract. George is still a fairly young player. He's in line to get another nice contract. I think that George has earned the right by being such a good teammate with the Jazz previously, such a good community member. I mean, he's been terrific. So I think the shortchanging George on minutes, I think would be a huge mistake. I think he's earned the right to receive some minutes this season, even though he's not a long-term piece. Isaiah Collier. I foresee Isaiah Collier still. I think that he should not lose his job that he earned last year, his starting position. I don't think that he should lose that to start the season. I still fully believe Walt to be the starter by the end of the year. I think that's how it's going to play out. But Isaiah, he certainly earned the right to start the beginning of the season. And then, if he plays his way out of the lineup or Walt plays his way into the lineup, so be it. But Isaiah is he's entering his second year. He's a terrific passer. He's the best at running the team from the point guard position. He's the best on the team right now. And he needs minutes too. We got to see where his shooting is, how that improves, or if it improves. But he needs time in order to show that. One way or the other, Isaiah Collier needs to play. And we all know Walter Clayton Jr., he also needs to play. He needs minutes. I mean, if he's thought to be possibly the long-term starter at the point guard position, we got to get him minutes this year. It's a necessity. Bryce Sensabaugh, he's certainly shown his ability to be an NBA player with his shooting. He has some of the best shooting mechanics in the NBA. He's best shooting mechanics on the Jazz team. Beautiful stroke, and he's shown his ability to make shots. So, yeah, Bryce needs more minutes this year than he's received in the previous 2 years. Cody Williams. I'm still a big believer in Cody Williams on the defensive end especially. He has the measurables to be a really good defender, A+ defender, and the Jazz desperately need that. There's all this talk about the Jazz are emphasizing defense this training camp, more physical defense, more effort on defense, more aggressive defense. Cody is one of the guys on the team that has the ability to do that. And I think that he needs playing time as a result of that. On offense, his shooting is still a work in progress, but if he runs hard on fast break opportunities, it fills the lane, he can get some easy baskets doing that. In this last preseason game, there were a couple of instances where he ran hard. He did not go, he received the ball, he went up and tried to finesse the ball, but he needs to try and go through people. But again, he's entering his second year, he's still learning, he's getting stronger, his body certainly has improved. I think Cody definitely needs minutes and not just put him back in like the G League. And then there's also Keyonte George. And for whatever the fan base thinks about Keyonte George, there's a lot of like and dislike out there right now. But the fact is, Will Hardy really likes Keyonte George. And Will Hardy has shown that he's going to stick with Keyonte George over the previous 2 seasons. And so I totally expect Keyonte George to get a bunch of minutes this year, probably around 30 minutes a game, somewhere in that neighborhood, unless he completely plays himself out of the lineup. But all indications are that's not going to happen. He's going to get a significant number of minutes this season. So, if we look at those 11 players, there's just not a lot of room for the veterans to have a consistent, significant role with the Jazz. There are going to be injuries, obviously, as there always are. It seems like the Jazz always have at least a couple of guys that are injured now. It's not like the teams of the 80s and 90s where everybody is basically just healthy all the time. The Jazz always have injuries, so that presents a situation where you can fill in some minutes, but it's not going to be on a consistent basis. It's going to be here and there, here and there. It's not a situation where you can just count on, especially those veteran players who aren't going to have a long-term role with the Jazz, to carve out consistent playing time. It's just, I don't foresee that as being a possibility. But those guys can be used to steady the ship when things aren't going well. We've seen how well Nurkic runs the offense at the top of the key, and that certainly helps the young guys. There's no doubt about that. And Love can certainly help the young guys at time too. And Kyle Anderson as well can help the young guys at time. Those three guys especially, there are certain situations where those guys can certainly help the guys develop and be on the court and help them develop. But just not in a major minutes way. I mean, Nurkic has done a really good job this preseason of running offense from the top of the key with all the handoffs and also the backdoor passes. And he's been great. On the offensive end, Nurkic has been great, and it's been really important to aid those young guys in running consistent offense and running productive offense. So he's been really good this preseason, and I commend him for being that good, because this summer with his national team there was all sorts of complaints. His coach with his national team was complaining that he was really out of shape and he wasn't ready to play basketball and everything. But so far in the preseason with the Jazz, he has actually looked pretty good. So anyway, those are my thoughts at this point on this particular past preseason game, and also the situation with the lineup and the playing time for this upcoming season. I don't know how exactly it's going to play out with the minutes and everything, but that's to be determined. And one of the things that Hardy can do. He can use playing time to motivate the players to play hard on the defensive end. And we've seen in the past, that really hasn't been the case, where the guys just are not playing hard all the time, are not engaged all the time, don't play with the needed intensity all the time. And so he has enough guys available to him now that if one or two guys are not playing as hard defensively as he wants them to, as is needed, he can substitute with somebody else and see if those guys can play with more intensity on the defensive end, because good habits, he needs to develop good habits with the guys now. You can't let this slide further with the lack of effort on the defensive end, the lack of attention to detail on the defensive end. The Jazz have this issue with finishing defensive possessions. Like, I've seen this with the guards especially, and I've seen this with Walt. Walt or Keontae will be guarding somebody on the perimeter. Their guy will have the ball. They'll shoot the ball. And both those guys will just turn their backs at that point and just stand there. They have no idea what's going on, no idea where the ball is going, no idea where their man is going. And it's just infuriating. You got to complete every player on the court needs to complete the defensive possession. And until the ball is in your possession, that defensive possession is not complete. And I hope that Hardy stresses that this year, that all five guys on the defensive end need to be cognizant of where their man is and where the ball is, so that they can actually complete each defensive possession. Now, I've seen Keontae's got a bunch of rebounds in a game this year. I've seen Walt rebound the ball, and that's great, but you still got to make sure that your man is just not roaming around out there without any idea of where that person is. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I mean, if you watch a team like Michigan State with Tom Izzo, and you watch all of his players, a shot will go up and his players will immediately find somebody to box out. They will locate with their eyes somebody to box out and put a body on that person. And that is fundamental basketball. And that's more of what, in not just this one aspect, but that's more of what, if the Jazz want to improve on the defensive end, those fundamentals need to be prioritized. I mean, it's a necessity. You just can't be lackadaisical on the defensive end. You got to play with intensity. You got to play with some physicality, and without those things, you're just going to be mediocre to bad defensively. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this past preseason game and some of the things with the roster for this upcoming season. And we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be an interesting year. So far, the preseason has been great. It's great to see all the young guys playing rather than the veterans that we've watched the previous 3 seasons. So it's going to be a fun year watching young guys play. But anyway, for those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And you can also follow us on X at Jazz Smack, and we will talk to everybody later.